Welcome to episode 4 of the Inner Circle podcast. And today it's all going to be about transition. That transition period where you're moving from one genre to another, or one specifically with Todd Dos Reis, he is moving from television to shooting his first feature film. And we're going to go into all that. We're also going to hear about his life, what he's been doing, what's he about. All right, Todd, how are you? How you doing today? Todd, how are you? How you doing today?
Great, Shane.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you on. Thank you so much for coming. So for all our FA members that might not know who Todd Dos Reis is, give us a little cliff notes of what you got cracking.
I'm from Massachusetts, New Bedford, Massachusetts. I grew up in a small Cape Verdean community. Started studying, looking at photography and looking at television studios in my high school. That led me to USC Film School, which led me to an internship with Russell Carpenter, and then camera department up the ladder.
Oh, fantastic.
To where I am today.
Nice. Yeah, I just got back from the Cape, and we were going to shoot in New Bedford as well. We were shooting on the Cape till July 4th happened, and then we were going to move off the Cape when the whole onslaught went down there. But it was so inspiring from a photographic sense, that place. My God, the images I was able to create there was pretty special. So tell us, growing up in Boston, that whole area, where, like you were talked about inspiration, photography and everything. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
Well, New Bedford is an hour south of Boston. We're right on the water. So if you've ever read Moby Dick, it starts out in New Bedford, Massachusetts. But basically, my inspiration came from, I was at the movie theater every weekend. I loved going to the movies by myself or with friends. I was there every weekend. So in the 70s and 80s, I was there watching blaxploitation and Bruce Lee films. So literally every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, seeing some of the great 70s films of blaxploitation. I got to see, The Godfather, Exorcist, when I shouldn't have, because I was too young.
Yeah. I was right along with you.
But yeah, that led me to photography, and then working at the TV studio in my high school. And my professor said, hey, if you ever think about studying this in college, and he gave me a list of the top 5 film schools in the country, and USC was one of them. And I latched onto it.
Oh, that's fantastic. So what was it like working with Russell Carpenter?
Well, I was with this company called Show Films. I did the internship, and then I became the production assistant. And when they started shooting this film they were doing, it was called Critters 2. I was basically let to do wherever I wanted to do on the set. So I would visit camera department, the grip department, the electric department, to see where my in was going to be, or if it was going to happen, or which department I fell in love with. And Russ's guys just let me load magazines. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever.
Oh my God.
I would take home BL magazines on the weekend and Airy 3 magazines and just practice loading. So I started loading for them. And actually, they needed a loader. Eventually, they said, hey, why don't we just pay Todd to become our loader? And I became their loader on that movie, Critters 2. And Russ was great. I would literally just sit on the set and look at his lighting and do lighting diagrams. And I think I sent you some lighting diagrams that I did, but that came from Russ Carpenter. I would just sit on his set and watch how he lit. And that's how I think I learned lighting. It was a fantastic start. Yeah.
Yeah. I got to work with him as a dolly grip when I was, because I made my work way up more on the grip and electric side. And he was shooting a movie that I was, literally wet behind the ears on the dolly, and not, that might have been my second time at dolly, and oh my God, but he was so kind and helping me through that process, which was wonderful.
No, Russ has been a supporter of mine since the very beginning. I worked with him all the way from when I started as a loader to a second AC, first AC. I worked with him as a camera operator. And he was the first one to say, hey, I think you're ready for the ASC. So he was the one that said, I'm going to write you a letter. I was like, Russ, I don't think I'm ready. He goes, no, I think you're ready.
Oh, that's great.
That led me into the ASC. So we're still really good friends.
So this episode is all about transition. And you have had some amazing transitions in your career. Let's take Entourage, for example. You started out as camera operator, and then you transition into director of photography. We're going to go from that transition, camera operating, to director of photography. And then we're going to go from the TV transition of, day in and day out, 6-8 months working as a TV series. And then you're jumping into your first feature film. So let's talk about the transition from camera operator to DP. I want to understand first your thought process. How was it different? What did you have to think about that you didn't necessarily think about? What were the politics that were involved? Let's start there, and then we'll just keep on loading it up.
You might need another half hour. So when I got out of film school, I knew I wanted to DP. I wanted to shoot. But I knew the way for me to go, because of Russ's introduction, was to work as a camera assistant. So in addition to camera assisting, I was also shooting music videos. So I was doing two paths. I was shooting and working, getting my union benefits, my union hours and stuff. But I was doing both at the same time all the way up. Whether I was a loader or second or first, I was always shooting. So by the time I got to Entourage as a camera operator, it was the pilot. We were on the pilot, and I was the operator, and David Franco was the director. We had a great time. It was, Doug Ellen, the creator's first try at it. And it was like amazing show, but I can never tell with pilots if they're going to hit or not.
Right.
And so I had no idea if this thing was going to hit, and sure enough, it hit. So I was operating on the pilot, but when they came to series, Steve Fairberg took over the show, and he had Dave Perkle, ASC, who was Doug Ellen's best friend. So he was definitely on the show, and they wanted Steadicam to be on the B camera. So I was out, but luckily Steve and I had gone way back. So he said, anytime I have a third camera or if there's a second unit,
sure,
you'll do it. So I was around for the first season after the pilot. And then second season, they figured out, we don't need Steadicam. This is a handheld show. It's all handheld. We're going to do it 35 millimeter handheld. No need for Steadicam. So then I came the B camera operator.
Great.
And Dave Perkle was the A camera operator. So, and the B camera operator on Entourage is fantastic, because the A camera on Entourage, you're basically telling the story. Like, we do a lot of oneers. It's all handheld. You could follow the guys up Sunset Boulevard and do all the coverage in one take, and that's the scene.
Right.
So B camera was more like, it was great for me because I could find things, or I could shoot inserts or coverage or cutaways that they're going to use somewhere else down the series. So it was like I was DPing, but I wasn't DPing. I was a B camera operator. So I still think the B camera operator position is like one of the best jobs on the set.
Yes.
Because sometimes you're not working, but you can find stuff to do. And it's fantastic, especially if you want to DP. Yeah. So for all the filmmakers out there, take that one. So then season 3, Dave Perkle moved up to DP, the show, and I moved to A camera. And then I was A camera from season 3 to season 6, but I got to shoot 2 episodes of Entourage. I'm sorry, one episode of Entourage season 5, because I was begging them. The politics of that show were insane. Right. So it took me 3 years to say, "Hey, Doug Ellen, I want to shoot. I want to shoot. I want to shoot an episode." So he finally let me do that. And then season 6, I said, "Hey, I want to move up. I want to move up now." And it was like there were so many people wanting those jobs because it was a hit show by then, massive HBO show. But I had to still fight my way in. Sure. So by season 6, I got 2 episodes. And then I was like, okay, well, Doug, this is it. I can't do this anymore. Either I'm DPing or I have to move on. And he let me move up to full-time alternating DP on season 7. And I finished season 7 and 8 as a DP. And I actually got to shoot the series finale, which was great. Season 8.
To circle back on the B camera operator position for 1 minute. if I'm looking for a B camera op, I'm looking for somebody that if I'm using one camera and it seems like that person needs to be on set just looking for something. It's like, I know a lot of times we focus on that A camera shot, making sure we're getting that thing, but I'm always open to say, okay, I'll light it a little differently if the B camera is going to get us a shot and get us in the zone and get the actors in the zone and, help with that coverage and everything. So it's like that B camera, you're absolutely right. It's absolutely essential. It's a beautiful splinter unit kind of thing that kicks off, that you get your DP skills and kind of show what you're made of. And it's a great way to say, hey, look at what I did here. The other thing is, from a B camera operator, what a DP really wants is somebody that's always engaged. So doesn't go back and sit on the truck when they're not working, is always looking for that shot and opening up to say, hey, I'll go shoot birds out there if we need some wildlife stuff. Always sitting there wanting to grab something. So that's just something I wanted to circle back on, because that slot tends to be kicked to the side a lot for A camera, but the B camera slot for me is gold so many times.
Absolutely. And even going back to how you started the 35 millimeter DSL thing, I have a A7S III. And if I'm in a tight space and there's no way a B camera is getting in there, I'll send them out to do time lapse or inserts.
Exactly.
It's like, go do something. It's like, it's the best job on the set.
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right. So you're transitioning, you obviously were doing a couple episodes here, but when you jumped into the director of photography from camera operator, how was that different? What was kind of the flow, and now the conversation with the showrunner, with the director? How did that all work?
Well, that was new to me, because even though I had been shooting music videos as a DP, to go into meetings and tech scouts with the director and working with the director, for a whole week, as opposed to like on a music video, you get them for maybe a day or two.
Oh yeah.
So
sometimes you never scout the location.
Just go, we're going to shoot there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was different, because I was like, wow, I have a lot of time. So it was eye-opening in that I had all this time to work with the director, which is great, because
Actually prep.
Because I went to film school and they taught the auteur theory, that this is the one voice of the film or the project. And television is not like that.
Right.
Television is, you have the showrunner, then you have this director that comes for the week.
Exactly.
And then there's another director that comes for the next week. So it's like, whose voice in television is, whose voice are you listening to? You always have to listen to the showrunner, but for that episode, you have to work with the director.
Yeah.
So that was shocking to me. So it was like, to really understand television, it was a good place to be, because I saw it for 8 seasons.
Oh, that's great.
I was there for it. So I kind of grew up on that show.
Nice. Yeah. So you could, because the politics of because there's a lot of times where the director will do the first and second episode and then the last episode, so they can, bookend it. I work with this one director, Maurice Maribel. I don't know if you've ever worked with him. He does a lot of TV, and he'll do the first or second and then the 10th or the 15th or whatever is the last one. And he always says, doing it that way, because he's also producer on the show. And that's where I find like a lot of the director / producers is something that's becoming much more prevalent now, as well as the showrunner. And it's like now you're having 3 and 4 voices plus the other directors on the show, right? So navigating those waters has to be somewhat different. I'm trying to think about when I did Into the Badlands, I just had 2 directors. So I had David Dobkin, and then I had, Guy Furman. So I had those only 2 directors to deal with. And I shot all 6 episodes on that first launch. But I'm remembering listening to David Dobkin about, you need to keep the vision, you need to keep the scope, you need to, listening to that chirp in my ear. And then I'm listening to Guy saying, we're going to do this much simpler. We're going to, get back on budget, crank it out. And then I'm listening to the showrunner that's saying, we need big, so it's like, it's so, what a kind of hornet's nest to some extent. How did you navigate that?
Well, going back to the pilot of Entourage, Doug Ellen and Steve Levinson were new, so they had never done a show. This was their first show, So I don't think they knew how much power they had at the beginning,
Right.
And they had so much input because, like, as soon as we started airing, it was a hit.
Yes.
And so HBO had a lot of input. Like, there were so many voices at HBO that Doug and Steven Levinson had to listen to. So it was that. But luckily we had a great pilot director, David Frankel, who did Devil Wears Prada. And I actually did the pilot of this new show called The Irrational with him in Vancouver. But David's a great director. So luckily they had him, and they had him as a producer on for the first season. So they had that voice.
Great.
But by the time I started shooting, it was a free-for-all. It was like we had everybody wanted to direct it. HBO still had all their hands in every decision. What cameos are we going to have this week? Where are we going on location? So it was a big political craziness on that show.
Okay, so now you've transitioned from camera operator to DP, and you're in the world of television. Now, you did also a lot of TV series. I saw you did SEAL Team. How was that different than Entourage? Or was that all the same?
I mean, SEAL Team, I came in to do, well, let me go back. So SEAL Team came because of my good friend, Jimmy Murrow.
Oh, yeah.
So Jimmy Murrow, the best Steadicam operator ever. I have to say, if anybody wants to argue with me, you can. But Jimmy Murrow and I met on Titanic when I was a camera assistant with Russ Carpenter. He was the A-camera operator. And we met on Titanic. Even though I was a day player, he remembered me. And when he started doing Southland, he wanted to bring me on as a operator. And then he let me get an episode of Southland. So that led me to SEAL Team. So Jimmy he'll always start a show as the DP, but they also give him episodes to direct. So I came on to direct his episodes of SEAL Team.
How was the transition going from like Entourage, kind of a handheld? How was SEAL Team? Was that very much the same kind of handheld grittiness kind of feel?
Yeah, because if you ever meet Jimmy Murrow, he's more camera's always moving. Like he knows where it goes. He has this feel to him because I think that's where he started in Steadicam. That's how he moves his camera. So SEAL Team is mostly handheld.
Yeah.
But if you go to another show, like I did a show called Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which was an hour-long episode where we did 2 to 4 music videos within that hour. And that carries the story. Those music videos carry the story to the end. So, and that was a lot of, normal stuff like studio mode and dollies and cranes. But it was like we shot 3 or 4 music videos within the frame of the episode. So that was, it's not a big change for me. It's still, as a DP, it's still lighting and putting the camera where it needs to be and discovering things. So.
Now, going back to your music video days, when was that? When did you start the whole music videos?
The late 80s.
Okay.
To probably 2000. I mean, I don't remember when it stopped.
Yeah, I was kind of the same time period.
Yeah. And I bet you I couldn't name more than 5 of the artists that I shot. I was once known in my field as the king of the $80,000 music video. It was like 1 or 2 days max of a music video that we did, and we made the most of it. But it was great. It was a great learning field. You got to do all the tricks, try things, and fail, and get up and try it again, and do something different.
Oh no, that's what was so eye-opening for me, because I was working with several directors that just wanted to push the envelope, and they didn't care if you failed. And that's what was very empowering, because you could really just toss it out there and really, get, oh my God, I remember shooting magnetic film stock that I had figured out that I could actually shoot on mag stock. I did some tests at Photochem. I found out that it was an 80 ASA, and it was 10 times the silver of black and white. So the black and white was extraordinary. So I was all into shooting this music video. I think it was...
Did it come out like infrared?
No. Beautiful black and white.
Okay.
But, so I shot the tests, and I showed the director, and he's like, I've never seen black and white like this. So then we get on set, and we have a lot of exteriors. And he goes, oh, let's use the red filter so it can bring out the sky and all that stuff. Guess what the safe light on the film was? Red. So we shot this whole music video. And I'm so excited. I call Van Horn, at Photocam, and I'm like, hey, how's this, footage? I'm so excited. They were all into it. And they're like, I got 20,000 feet of black. And I was like,
oh, man.
What? I did shoot with the red filter. He goes, oh, I should have told you. The red filter, that the safe light on that film was red. But these are the kind of things that happen, in the music video industry where you can just try that kind of stuff. And it was a complete failure. And we brought her back and we did it all over again. And I really loved that time period of experimenting, not worrying about failing. And then sometimes what you thought was a complete failure was absolute genius. And then you take it with you for the rest of your career.
How many of those things are still in your toolkit today?
No, I know.
It's
exactly.
amazing.
Yeah.